As we told you at 9:30, we broke the news to you that Australia Post could be losing up to 1,900 jobs. More problems with the letters business, could lose $500 million this financial year. And the mail business, that could add up to $1.5 billion in 5 years. There's a $190 million redundancy fund been set up. In the studio with me is the Managing Director, Group CEO of Australia Post, Ahmed Fahour. Good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
You've described this as a tipping point. What do you mean?
Well, for the last couple of years, we've been talking about this mail volume decline that's occurring in society, where people are using less and less letters and companies are moving to electronic mail. And we said that this year would be a year whereby the losses that we make in the letters business would overwhelm the profit that we make in the rest of the company. And exactly as you and I have been talking about on this show now all year, those things have come home.
So what loss are you looking at overall?
Look, we're approaching in the mail business nearly $500 million in losses in the business this year alone. And if you add it up over the last 5 years, that now brings us to about $1.5 billion losses in delivering mail.
And what does that mean to the business overall, the figures for the business overall?
Overall this year, the company, for the first time in 30 years, will report an overall loss because of the drop in the mail volume, in the letter volume. And
what will that be?
We haven't reported that. We're still finalising the year-end accounts, and over the next couple of months we'll finalise that. But we know it's a sizable loss, and it's one that we've been predicting.
Well, is this $500 million, though, $500 million rather, $500 million? Is this moving quicker than you expected?
The losses are larger this year than we had initially had forecast. And the reason why the losses are larger in the mail business this year is because the volume decline, i.e. people's use of letters, has actually fallen faster than even the the highest optimistic forecast that we'd had earlier in the year.
So it's going down the gurgler faster than you thought?
It's really going down a lot, and society is using electronic mail a lot faster than even we had anticipated.
How many jobs over the next, 5 years?
We've been modelling what's the likely, as we transition the company from the declining areas of the business to the growing areas of the business. And our modelling is suggesting that over the next 4 to 5 years, that we will have potentially 2,000 jobs less in the mail side, around 1,900 or so, less in the mail side than what we would have in the growth parts of the company. So we have more in the growth parts than we have in there. So if you look at it over time, we actually think the total number of jobs in the company will be roughly flat over that time period, as it has been in the last few years. So we're balancing off the declining area with the growth area.
But those people in the mail area won't necessarily transfer to the other area, will they?
And that's the issue. We've been quite successful of retraining and redeploying 4,400 staff in the last 18 months. But we know that despite the fact that there are growth and jobs available in the rest of the company, a number of people will voluntarily say, look, it's fine, I want my legal right to have a voluntary package. And that's what we're provisioning for. I just want to be clear, there are no forced redundancies and nobody will be forced to leave the company under any circumstance. What we're saying is if you're looking for work, if you are looking for work and you want to stay employed, there's plenty of jobs. And that's what we're catering for.
Well, how many people employed in the mail division as of now?
There are approximately 23,000 people.
What will that be in 5 years?
We've got a range of, it depends upon the volume. It all depends upon where we'll be. So our model is suggesting at the moment that there could be around up to, 1,900, 2,000 less. But here's the point.
No, but isn't that if you're picking some of them up in your other division? What about your mail division overall? How much does that drop?
Yeah, well, we know that there'll be less people doing letters in the letters area. But the thing is that we're doing a lot more parcels. So let me give you the best example of that. A postie. We're committed to 5-day-a-week delivery of the postie. And the postie is absolutely 5 days a week, no matter what product that they pick, will be there. As a matter of fact, we're doing Saturday delivery for express post items. 5 years ago, predominantly what the postie delivered was mail. Today, we have 36% less mail today, letters, than we had 5 years ago. A third less than what we had five. But we still have the same number of posties because their bag is now full of parcels. So we still have the same number of people. It's just that they're delivering a different thing.
Okay, but I'm a little confused. If you've got 23,000 in mail at the moment and you're going to have perhaps around 2,000 less, but how many of that brings you down to 21, but how many in that mail division will end up working elsewhere? So will your overall mail people be down below 21,000?
It could be. It depends upon what the community's use of letters is, you know. It really depends upon what happens with society. If society all of a sudden rediscovers letters, and I really hope they do, particularly businesses, that they send more mail, then we will have more people doing letters. But our job is, what I'm saying to you, is that if I look out in 4 years' time, I'm anticipating the total number of people working at Post will be roughly the same as it is today, the total number. Because we have experienced and will continue to experience very big job growth in the rest of our business.
The Communications Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, in March approved that reform package with a two-tier delivery service and the basic stamp price with some concession exceptions going up to $1. Will that save people? Will that help, or do you want more than that?
Well, firstly, we really welcome that decision, and as you know, we've been speaking about it. Without that decision to support reform that our minister has given us and the government has given us, we were looking like we were going to lose $6.5 billion that was going to go onto the taxpayer. And we've avoided
Over what period of time?
Over the next 10 years.
Okay.
$6.5 billion has been avoided by this decision to support reform by the government. We're very grateful for that. So that's the first thing that reform has done. It's actually allowed us the opportunity to run this business sustainably. But the second thing it's done, and I think this is really critical, is that it now enables us to transition our people from the declining parts of the business to the growing parts of the business, because we no longer have to deliver a service that is for volume that's declining. We can now transfer those capable people, and that's why retraining and redeployment is so important.
Do you need more, though? I mean, you've got the two-tier delivery service and the change in the price, the reform package as it's described. Do you need more from government?
Absolutely not. What we need right now, and we're very grateful for, is the reform regulation, which is going to enter the Parliament to be approved and allow us and the ACCC to approve our $1 price. Because if we get those, we avoid that $6.7 billion black hole. And if we get those, we have a very bright future, and we can keep employed all the people who want a job at Australia Post.
So you doubt whether you don't doubt you're going to get it, do you?
Well, unless somebody wants to find us $6.7 billion, I'm very confident and hopeful that this will actually go through.
Some in the markets are saying that what's released here is part of the campaign to get that through, to make sure the ACCC agrees, to make sure it gets through Parliament. Is that part of it?
Who would ever wish to lose $500 million? Who would ever do such a thing? I mean, this is a terrible situation that's not caused by anybody, but the internet giveth on the one hand, but it takes on the other. The newspaper industry knows that. We know that. Talk to Kodak. You know, the digital world is changing everything that we do, and we've got to get with the times. Otherwise, we'll be part of history, and we have no intention of being part of history. We want to be part of the future.
Part of the history, you mean disappear?
That's what it will mean if reform doesn't go through.
This reform, if this reform doesn't go through, is your future on the line?
Absolutely, without question.
Is the rest of the business performing adequately?
The rest of the business is going terrific. When we report our results, you'll see that our parcels business actually grew, and that growth is in a very competitive environment. As you know, the parcels business, we have Japan Post entering the market buying toll, we have Singapore coming in, we have a countless number of operators all chipping away at us. But despite all of that, and despite all of the issues that we're dealing with, I'm pleased to say we actually grew the business in this financial year.
I just want to get it clear. If you don't get this reform package, you're in deep trouble. It could be the end of you. If you do get this reform package, is that enough?
We believe not only is it enough, we actually are very optimistic and excited about the future.
Thank you very much for coming in. One last question. What does all this mean to the customer? I mean, we've talked about the politics, the economics, the staff. What about the customer?
You know, at the end of the day, the most important thing that society and customers say to me is, look, We want you to be around, and we want you to be part of the future. And there's a couple of things they really value, and all of our surveys, all of our work says this. One is we love our post office. Do what you can to take care of our post offices, particularly in regional rural Australia. And what I can say is the packages that we announced that we spoke about on your show have done absolutely that. The licensed post offices are protected, and we've saved a number of these regional rural post offices, and we're committed to the total network. The second thing they like is they like their postie coming around delivering mail, but increasingly they don't want them to deliver their bills. What they really want is those packages they bought online in their online shopping. And so we've given an absolute commitment to 5-day-a-week delivery of our posters. And the third thing that they say to me is take care of your employees. And that's what I'm really proud about this package. There is no forced redundancies. Anybody wanting a job will have a job, and this is all voluntary. And I think we've got a very bright future, and I really thank the government for supporting reform.
I was baffled when I went to post a letter the other day at a post box, and there was a sign on it saying post by 6 p.m.
On the street posting boxes? Yeah.
It used to say post by 6 a.m. next day delivery, which it doesn't. What does it mean? Post by 6 p.m. or else it turns into a pumpkin. What does it mean?
Neil, you disappoint me a lot, because I thought you'd be the guy that instead of using just a red box, that you'd love enjoying using the yellow box and the gold box, because if you put it in there, it's guaranteed next day and you're paying the right price. So look after Australia Post and pop it into a gold box.